Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Hoops podcast. Today, I'm joined by the president of JMB1 Enterprises and co-founder and CFO of the Second Round Foundation, Miss Sandra Brunson. Mrs. Brunson, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, ma'am.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Oh, yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much again. So let's jump into our conversation here. So you've had an impressive career from litigation, paralegal work, to now running your own company and foundation. So take me through the roots of your professional journey.
Um, well, thank you. I It's hard to think about my career thinking that it was just one fold because initially I wanted to become an attorney. And when Rick and I graduated from college, excuse me, I realized that I probably wouldn't be in one place very long. So the law school aspirations was kind of put to the side. So I went into litigation support right out of college. And that gave me a wealth of knowledge, not only from a legal standpoint, but also in business. And the meaning behind litigation support, you're doing all aspects of supporting attorneys and the litigation process. And it challenged me in ways that have helped me today, organizational skills, teamwork, and things like that, and analytical thinking. So I would say my journey truly prepared me for where I am today.
So this is a basketball podcast as well. And as you stated before, you were a college athlete, you played volleyball. So can you talk a little bit about your love of sports as well? Like where did that originate from?
Oh, I played sports from a very young age. There was a time, believe it or not, and you're too young to understand that, where kids were able to just go outside in their front yards and roller skate, play flag football, you name it. I played it. I played it with the boys. I played it with the girls. And when I got into middle school that I started to play organized sports, and I played everything. The one sport that I really wasn't thinking about was basketball. I was like, I played volleyball, I played softball, but a friend of mine was going to try out for the basketball team in the seventh grade. And she wanted support, so I went to watch her. I was sitting in the stands just watching with a lot of other people, apparently, for tryouts. And it was our teacher, our social studies teacher, who said, "Oh, you need to come out. You need to come out." Mind you, I was tall. I started to have a growth spurt. And I was like, "No, this is not my thing. This is not my thing." But he's like, "Oh, you got to try it. You got to try it." So I did, and I made the team, and I excelled. I think I was a good athlete, you know.
Mhm.
But obviously, I played college volleyball, not basketball. So there's some things to basketball that I really wasn't good at. But I believe sports is, in general, helps to build character in young people. It teaches them resilience. It teaches them teamwork. It teaches them how to deal with adversity. And it also helps them, stay healthy, and build that mental toughness. So, believe it or not, my parents weren't into sports, but they allowed us to play sports. My sister and brother played sports, so it became part of my DNA. So, I applaud and I pretty much cheer on any young child who chooses to play a sport, and I feel like they should because if they're able to, just because it just builds so much character.
My mom has told me all those things what you just told me since I was a little kid. But the one thing that you didn't mention was it keeps kids out of trouble. Like so
Oh,
many.
that's a given.
I know.
That's a given. So you know what? And that's the thing. Well, back in my day, it wasn't even about keeping you out of trouble. It was just doing some things, recreationally after school activities. I don't think kids really, well, at least not in my neighborhood or whatever, were getting into trouble. It was just the thing to do. Everybody played sports. And Yeah, but that's a given in this day and age, especially.
I
Stay
remember
out of trouble.
kids would throw parties on the weekends and stuff like that, but my mom would always take me to training because one of my trainers had a gym Friday through Sunday. So I was never out and around because I live in Queens and like, around like, I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar, Queens
mhm.
Boulevard and like that whole area where I went to school, the Forest Hills area. It's a nice area, but
Jamaica Avenue,
hmm
Sutphin Avenue,
yep.
Sutphin Boulevard, excuse me. Yes.
A lot of things, a lot of stuff going on over the extracurriculars that my mom didn't want me to get involved with. But the love of basketball really carried me over and here I am today playing in college, but I can connect to you on that note. So,
Yes, that is so true. So true.
so what inspired you to start JMB1 Enterprises and how has your role as president evolved over the last 5 to 6 years?
So, what inspired me, us, was knowing that when Jalen was drafted, that we needed to create an entity to help him with his business endeavors, whether it be with marketing or parent company for other endeavors or things like that. My business background actually influenced that because we needed an entity that would pretty much house or incorporate all of the dealings that jail potentially could have. And I used to burn the midnight oil. I mean, I was doing this while still having a full-time job and traveling to watch him play. So you figure 2018 is when we started the company after he got drafted.
Mhm.
And it I could say it started out slow, small, being able to partner with, whether it's a company through brand deals or things like that, you need an entity to help manage those things. And I would say that it has grown over the years. Jalen keeps us busy. And now we're like a support to like his agent, his marketing team over at CAA. And I don't know what we would do without it. Now it is my full-time job. And unlike when my husband played basketball, and my husband was never as good as Jalen, I would say, in that aspect, just for the accolades and everything. It is what it is, right? So back then, I think a lot of players didn't have, or there wasn't a need for players to have their own brands. Everything is so central around an individual. And there's so many opportunities. Players are doing so much more with their time and their resources, their money. And that's why we created that company so we can help manage and allow him to keep doing the main thing, which is to play basketball.
Right. So you mentioned having a job along with being president of JMP1 Enterprises when it first started, when he first got drafted to the Dallas Mavericks. What lessons did you learn during that time of your career?
The career starting out with JMB1 or the career that I had
Like managing both, like time
managing both.
management skills, all the above.
Oh, okay. So I can tell you, I didn't do too well with time management. I can tell you because I was always working
Right.
all the time. So you figure you work a 9 to 5, and then, you know, I have a younger child who's still in high school. So also balancing going to support her. She played sports, a husband who was working and things like that. So I would, a couple of days a week, I'd be up to like 1 or 2 in the morning
Wow.
and trying to watch games and things like that, but just managing. So, mind you, I found that a lot of other moms as well can attest to this who are in my circle. You have to be the eyes and ears of
Mhm.
your child who is a professional athlete. A lot of vetting because they get a lot of proposals or, just things thrown at them. And it's about more so protecting their interests, protecting them from, bad actors, so to speak. And I would have to do a lot of the research, a lot of the review, working with the accountants and things like that. So while I wasn't actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I was managing and reviewing and assessing those who we put in place to do the heavy lifting. And through that, what it taught me was I got to take care of myself.
Mhm.
I have to allow for time to actually step away from the computer, give myself a weekend here or there, or and just know when to say, okay, I'm done working. I'm not going to do this. And then mind you, when you go to basketball games, people also want to conduct a meeting,
Right.
or meet and greet and things like that. So then I learned, obviously, after 2018, with starting the company, I officially stopped working for Camping World in 2023.
Wow.
And after a 12-year career there, and that was hard to do. That was like an 8-month process too. It was very hard to leave that regiment. And my coworkers, I loved what I did. And after doing so, I've learned to now I have to balance, family again. And it's hard to work for yourself. Although I'm not working for myself, particularly I'm my own boss.
Right.
Jalen technically is my boss, but I am my own boss. I set my own schedule. And it's very easy to get caught up in trying to multitask and do everything. You have to treat yourself well. You have to learn to step away because it's basketball never stops. Whoever came up
Mhm.
with that statement, that phrase, they are 100% correct, even the summertime and so
Right.
forth. And I've just learned from my journey that I have to give myself some grace and not try and overwhelm myself because it is, you can easily get overwhelmed.
So you mentioned, since you're going off the point that you were just talking about, you're giving yourself some time to like step away from all the work and the big, rigorous and arduous schedule. What would you say is like your favorite free time thing to do to give yourself a little break?
Well, now I'm a grandmother.
Oh wow,
So
congratulations.
that, thank you. That trumps everything. Everything. I, and of course, my family,
Mhm.
but she is now the heartbeat of our entire family. And sometimes I say to myself, do I want to carve out my day thinking like, okay, can I get over there and be with her for the morning? Or can I stay with her in the evening and let, Jalen and his wife have an evening out or something like that? And I'm willing. Whoever said that grandchildren are the best, the best part of being a grandparent. It is the best. I can't explain it. Obviously, you're very young, um, but she is my world, and that is my free time is through her. And when I'm with her, I don't care about anything. I shouldn't say this. I have missed a couple of meetings, a couple of Zoom calls because I've just been with her, and I'm just so thankful for the to be a grandparent. And Rick and I, when we're with her, it's just like we could sit and watch her all day. We're in amazement. So that's how my free time. Other than that, being at the beach. If I can get to the beach,
Wow.
that's my being around water. If I'm around water, just to hear water, even by a pool, but I would just that is very tranquil to me and very comforting. And that's how I spend my free time.
Well, no, I could agree with you on that. No, family really is a big aspect, and it like leads to success at the end of the day as well. Because once you have that kind of like companionship and know you have that support on your back, like everything, like the load feels a little lighter. I have a 6-year-old sister as well, so like I always try and like carve out time to hang out with her as much as I can as well. So
That's
I know what
great.
you're talking about. So you co-founded the Second Round Foundation with a mission to create inclusive environments for youth and families as well. What inspired that vision of yours?
It's a long story, but it actually was, and I'll try to condense it as because I know we're short on time. It was, well, first of all, the name was inspired by Jalen being drafted in the second round. And if anyone who's in this basketball community getting drafted, playing college sports, and then getting drafted is like the biggest thing, right, to be in the draft. And I'm sure you probably have a history of Jalen and his accolades in
Mhm.
college and so forth and so on. I would watch some interviews on TV and assessment of people would talk about, the upcoming draft. And there were a couple of people would say, oh, he would have a cup of coffee. And I used to be like, well, what the heck does that mean? Oh, Jalen would have a cup of coffee in the league, which just means like a quick little second,
Hmm.
a little stint. And then other people would say, oh, he's going to have a long career. And I said, like, well, what does that mean? Right. And this is going to the draft. I just wanted him to get drafted because that was his dream to be drafted, to play in the NBA. That was his dream. So when he was drafted, and I remember we didn't have a quote unquote draft party. We had a graduation party because he was on the brink of graduating. He had
Yep.
a couple of more hours. He graduated in the summer of 2018 and winning the national championship and so we had, and then also it happened to be draft night. We had it on and we had family and friends over in the restaurant. He got drafted obviously in the 33rd pick. And I can remember him sitting there waiting. And he started to get quiet. My husband's nervous in the corner somewhere in the restaurant or so forth. I guess for some, being drafted in the second round and going 33rd after being National Player of the Year and getting all these consensus Player of the Year awards was kind of a setback. And I quickly, which I've always done with my children, um, try to change the thinking behind something that's considered adverse or adversity or, a setback. And we had conversations where it's just like, just imagine you have all of these resources, like you mentioned, training, he did all these things. For us to help him, we did what we could. He had access to a lot of things. And I said, and people still doubted him. He did everything that a college athlete could do, winning the championships with his teammates and becoming National Player of the Year. That's an award that, he couldn't give himself. That was given to him. He earned it. And so I quickly wanted him to understand that, just imagine you've gotten all these things to help you get to where you are. And we told you hard work pays off and all these things. Be disciplined, no go to parties and all those things like you said your
Yeah.
mom would do. And people still think that you're not good enough.
Right.
So I just said, well, let's think about all the individuals who don't have those resources, who don't have the ability to do things. Just think about them. Don't have a pity party. Well, let's think about this. And obviously, he's thinking basketball, but I'm like, well, maybe we should start thinking about how we can give back to
Yeah.
those who we can help provide equity and access. Think about the kids in your high school. And that's how it started. It was like I always try to teach them, let's not have a pity party. How can we, use this as fuel? How can we do something to better the situation? And that's how the Second Round Foundation came about. Mind you, it took like 3 years or so after that to actually formally start the foundation, but we would do things in the Dallas area to just kind of understand what exactly we want to do, how do we want to help people, who do we want to help, and I think it allowed Jalen to focus on something other than being the 33rd pick in the draft.
Right.
Mind you, he was elated, and my husband told him, like, Dad, listen, the draft is over. Everybody has to start at zero. So
Mhm.
now is where the real work comes in. So that was how it came about. Second round, that term, we've always used that every time, you're a second round pick. I would challenge him. I said, people think you're not supposed to be here. And while he was starting out his career, I just said, let's not wait until you accomplish something in the league. You don't have to wait to be, I told him, an all-star to help other people to start giving back. And little by little, while we were in Dallas, we would meet with school, like principal here and there, and just understand the school systems and things like that, just to help build in our minds something that we want to create down the road. So that's a long-winded answer to say how did it come about? But truthfully, it was from him not having to feel as though what he did wasn't good enough and how we can help others who don't have the access and equity to do, to have to reach goals or to work just as hard at something that they cherish.
So you mentioned you mentally helping Jalen with his journey as well. But since you pointed to that you were also an athlete as well, I know you're familiar with that viral clip that came out last year during the playoffs with Coach Rick Brunson training Jalen in the park, like throwing the ball and stuff like that. Would you ever help out with like the basketball training on that end at all earlier on in his career?
Since you asked, I was recording that video. So,
Really?
the crazy thing is like, wait a minute, that's my video. So I never understood what Rick used to say, I need to record him. We need to record him because he has to see what he he hears me, but I don't think he needs to visualize.
Hmm.
So there's a lot more tapes where that tape came from, right? And so it was in on a website that we had because there was a website for him and we kind of memorialized videos, his college career and so forth. That was really just for us, for him to have like a video or a digital yearbook, so to speak. And someone found that video and and it could have been like MSG or something where they were like their photos. I was like, yeah, there's something out there. Go to this site, and they pulled it.
Hmm.
And that was like, whoa, wait a minute. At first, we're not the type of family to kind of say, hey, look at me, look, I'm working, I'm
Right.
working. That was more so initially so he can go home with dad and watch himself see that, footwork in addition to hand placement or whatever it is you basketball savants talk about.
Hmm.
And yeah, so yes, I would help. I was more of the buffer at home in addition to the videographer. So maybe one day I could share. We took the rest of them off because we wanted to kind of preserve them and have him use it for something, maybe a documentary if he wants to one day. But that's how I participated. And his little sister was with us. I would rebound. Oh my gosh, in high school, that was a killer. I would rebound. We would go shoot with him to shoot the night before games. And rebounding is very hard. And I would videotape, not to mention meals and training tables, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it was a full family affair.
I don't know if you're familiar with like Michael Jackson's special back in the 90s when he did his home movies with I think it was I forgot what company he did, but he was going through all his home movies from throughout his career. Maybe you guys can do something like that in like a movie room or something, film room. That would be really cool. Get a lot of views off of
Yeah.
that.
There's a lot. There's a lot there. We actually did start to digitize a lot of images and videos. That way we have them because they're on these little cassettes way
Right.
before your time. But VHS was a thing. And just Jalen, when he was little, as a young mom, I videotaped him a lot and, and his sister at their birthdays, first basketball games, soccer. So there's a lot of things for him to share with his daughter and just as a family. So I'm thankful for that because we cherish those times.
So that leads me into my next question. What advice would you give to other parents navigating the world of youth and high-level sports with their children?
Um, First of all, I think there's no right or wrong way to go about it. Um, Parents, obviously, I think should just have to know their child and whether or not this is something that they want to do. My two children are totally different. Both played sports throughout middle school and high school, but you can't challenge them the same.
Right.
We could never challenge Erica the way we would challenge Jalen. And I would say, one, don't be a fan of your child. You know, you can cheer them on, you can support them, but at the same time, they have to understand that you're the parent and you have their best interest at heart, but also there's a level of discipline and responsibility that comes with having the opportunity to play sports. So I would say, sports for children is an outlet, like you said, it keeps them out of trouble. But at the same time, it's a privilege to play sports. It's a
Oh,
privilege to
100%.
be on a team. And there's a lot of discipline. And when you mentioned how your mom said you were training on the weekends, Jalen had to finish schoolwork,
Hmm.
He had to, and if you want to play, you want to play in college or you want to play on this high level elite AAU team, you had to train, you had to practice, and then you could probably go to a party or something like that. But you had to get a lot of things done, and you had to balance them all, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. And you have to surround yourself with certain friends. So I would say that what I would say to parents, I would say that it's a two-way street in that you're supporting them. You want, and it takes money too. It takes
Yeah.
money to go into some of these trips with your child. It's an investment, and that's how I saw it. I saw it as an investment in him because it's something that he wanted to do. And with each phase, he bought in more and more because he not only saw success on the court, he also saw it in the classroom and in our home life.
That made me laugh just now when you said it is an investment. I countless times my mom calls me her $1 million child that I better go out there and like
Oh, yeah.
do something with this big investment. I'm like a
Yes.
little bit of pressure, ma, but I mean, I always joke around about that, but it makes me laugh. That just like brought back so many memories right there, countless times.
So I could tell you if I could reflect back on my journey, Shirley, it was kind of unheard of. I graduated from high school in 1990. I'm kind of telling you my age, but I made this volleyball team. It was called Big Apple Volleyball in Long Island, and girls from around the Nassau and Suffolk counties
Hmm.
tried out for this team, and they traveled and all this. And I made the team. Mind you, I only played organized sports in high school, so this was like a huge jump, and it was elite. We traveled, went to Belgium, we
Wow.
went Pennsylvania, we went places, and we competed on a very high level. I made this team. My parents didn't know anything about this. We were like, and it was $1,000 to play. Back then, wow. And my parents, they're Jamaican born, and that was something unheard of. They had
Right.
two children in college as well. So, but the head of that organization told my parents, it may seem like a lot now, but this is an investment in your child. I
Mhm.
promise you, you invest this, it will lead to a scholarship. It would, he said. I don't think he said it could. I think he said it would lead to a scholarship and so forth and so on. And so my parents were like, okay. And I loved it. I loved volleyball. I wasn't playing like, oh, I want to play, beach volleyball or whatever it is, or in the Olympics. I just loved it and was like, oh, I can get a scholarship? Great. Knowing how much it costs my parents to have my sister and brother in college, and they went to big schools.
Mhm.
So, with that said, I understood the investment part of it because I actually lived it. I got a full scholarship to college. And so, if anything, having playing sports in college or the ability to, not everyone's going to be a professional athlete,
Right.
but there's so many things that come out. First of all, the free education which is a lifetime investment. And secondly, there are other ways that you can contribute to sports, on a elite or executive level. And those are other things that I valued and understood. So it was a no-brainer to help, Jalen and our daughter. But she told us quickly, she's like, no, I'm not playing sports in college. And we were like, that's fine. That's fine.
So you've succeeded across many platforms, law, entrepreneurship, nonprofit leadership, and motherhood as well. How do you stay grounded and driven across all these platforms?
Well, first of all, thank you. I don't see myself, obviously, my children, seeing Jalen's rise, seeing Erica's rise, two graduates from college, you know, um, I'm successful in that aspect. I believe, when your children strive, and meet their goals, that is a win for everyone. What I, to stay grounded, I've always been someone who's very humble, and I'm like, that's why also being a paralegal was very easy for me, and I loved it because I like being behind the scenes.
Mhm.
I don't like to be out in front
Yeah.
and kind of flamboyant. I'm very reserved. I'm very reserved, and I know what it means to work hard, to support your family. I've seen my parents do it. And that's what it's about. Of course, I like nice things. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, I'm very thankful that I'm able to work to obtain those things, and my family is able to do that. And I don't forget that every and everything that I have is a blessing from God. It's a blessing, and I don't take it for granted. That's how I stay grounded.
So now this leads me into my final question. What's next for you, either professionally, personally, or with the Second Round Foundation?
Wow. The second round foundation, we are just getting our footing. We are 3 years young. Jalen playing in New York has brought tremendous awareness to the mission. We've been able to partner with organizations and schools throughout the impact cities, and the impact cities for Jalen would be, Chicagoland area. It's the cities that had an impact on his life. Chicagoland area, Lincolnshire in particular, from high school, where Philadelphia region where he played in college, Dallas,
Mhm.
where he was drafted, and now New York. So for the second round foundation, I see us growing, and it's about having sustainability and building a legacy. And this is hard work. And now I find myself, I'm splitting the baby. Like I told you before, I have the JMB1 on one side and working with our great CEO and Jalen, of course, and our board members on the second round foundation side, and also Whole Pass Media to help build and create this organization that will support children in schools and families. And we realize that we can't and we don't have time to recreate the wheel, so to speak. We have to support things that are already in place, organizations that are already in place, and that allows us to grow faster and help and have better impact more with the sense of urgency because people and children need help now. And I feel as though if we tried to create an organization from the ground up wherein we are have to do our own vetting. We have to do, raise a lot of money first before we're able to do anything in the community. We would have lost years
Mhm.
to help and to impact children. So what's next for that organization is to keep building and growing, spreading awareness, and at the same time, helping provide equity and access for children and youth. As far as the business goes, what's next? Learning a lot about, where businesses are today and how AI is everywhere and just how sports have grown in a sense, like through where media and sports meets. We're learning all those different things. And my kids keep me in line and teaching me about, the social media. I mean, I know it. I don't particularly care to use it, but all of those things help build the brand, help grow your audience. And so there's things that we're looking to do as a family down the road that will just help also hopefully provide jobs for individuals as well. So we're just learning. And the other aspect is just carving out time, more and more time to spend with our granddaughter and our family. Because the with the success of his new team, well, I don't think it's new anymore because he's been there 4 years
Right.
with the Knicks, but those summers are getting shorter and shorter. So it's, the longer they play, the less of a summer that you have. So we're trying to just spend as much quality time as we can and just, work with other families, other players and their mothers, learn from them as well, because we are the heartbeats of our sons. I've noticed that because we're the driving force for them to do good work in the community. And I'm so thankful to have that sister network as well.
Well, Mrs. Brunson, thank you so much for giving this opportunity today and coming on the show and sharing your experiences. And I wish you the best of luck going forward, ma'am.
Thank you, Ashton. It was a pleasure. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of my stories. And I wish you all the best. and take care of yourself.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.